I recently made a video about BattleTech Centers from back in the 90s and was kind of surprised with the response it got. One of the things that I heard over and over in the comments was about the other game that was played in those incredible pods. Not the BattleTech Mech Combat Simulator, but the sci-fi anti-gravity racer, Red Planet. I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks researching what made those illegal Martian death races so unforgettable. So let's jump right into it. The first BattleTech Center opened in Chicago in 1990. That's before the Super Nintendo had even launched in the US. Think about the timeline. Most people were still playing 8-bit games on their living room TVs. And yet, here were these massive, dark pods with glowing lights all hooked up to a network that could connect players across the room and later, around the world. You didn't stand at the cabinet, you climbed into a cockpit, pulled a heavy door shut, and faced a wall of screens with the throttle in one hand and the joystick in the other. Now, contrast that experience with how we visit Mars in games today. Boot up something like the 2016 Doom remake, and yeah, it's gorgeous, it's fast, but you're still on the couch. Its Red Planet is just some pretty pixels on a flat monitor. Back in those pods, though, you were sitting inside a cramped, humming space that smelled like plastic and sweat. The door sealed shut, the screen's right up in your face, and for 10 minutes, you weren't in a shopping mall arcade anymore. You were actually on Mars. Players came out of these pods talking like they'd actually survived a crash landing, and that, my friends, is the difference. Of course, the main event was always BattleTech, piloting those giant mechs and blasting each other to pieces. That's what brought most people in. But the centers also had another game. That game was Red Planet. No mechs, just hovercraft racing through the mining tunnels of a corporate-run Mars. Now, a lot of players balked at first due to the cost to play, but once they tried it, something clicked. And what they discovered was that Red Planet, especially its Martian football mode, might have actually become the most addictive thing in the entire building. So, here's what you need to know about the gameplay. Red Planet launched in 1996 as the first non-BattleTech title for the Tesla System 4 pods. This game put you in the hovercraft of a Sub-Zero, one of the exploited workers dreaming of escaping the colossal mining corporation. And the core loop was simple. You collect points by flying through scoring zones as fast as you can, but the bonus system's brutal. Consecutive goals double your score, 500, 1000, 2000, and up exponentially. One bad crash though, your bonus resets, and your team loses points. And Red Planet lets players collide at full speed. Bashing other vehicles is often more effective than racing clean. Up to 8 players compete across a single course filled with closing doors, twisting tunnels, and obstacles designed to wreck anyone who's not paying attention. And the hovercrafts come in different classes. The Bug class for speed, the Bull class for ramming, and boosters are a one-time use per race. Use it up too early, and you've got nothing left to catch up in the final stretch. So, that's step 1, but it's in the second part of the gameplay where things get really interesting. Martian football. This is the mode that built a cult following. Imagine a high-speed roller derby on Mars. 4-on-4 teams. One player on each side is the runner, the one who scores by hitting goal zones. Everyone else is either a blocker, protecting their runner, or a crusher, whose only job is to smash into the opposing runner at maximum velocity. Crushers get a fresh set of boosters every time they respawn. That means they can fly around at absurd speeds, hunting for that head-on collision. The scoring system is ruthless. Kill the runner, and their team loses points. Kill them at high speed, and they lose even more. But there's a problem. You can't just try this out for the first time and expect to win. Veteran players learn that it's not about driving, it's about communication. I mean, without real coordination, the Crushers will find you, and your team's points will drain away. That turns a straightforward racing game into a tactical brawl that demands teamwork. Being good at the controls isn't enough. You have to trust the people next to you. Next, we've got to talk about how it looks. First, this was from back in 1996. The original Tesla pods packed 3 CPUs with about 8 megs of RAM, pushing 162,000 triangles at 30 frames per second. That might not sound like much today, but back then, it was cutting edge. Each pod measured 3 feet wide, 6 feet long, and 7 feet tall. It's a cramped, immersive little world where the Mars landscape stretched across multiple screens. In fact, the Tesla 2 pods had a whopping 7 monitors wrapped around the player. The courses themselves have a convincing industrial look. Mining tunnels, narrow corridors, and cavernous spaces that are lit with harsh reds and oranges, matching the Martian aesthetic. Different hovercraft classes had their own silhouettes and handling characteristics. It wasn't photorealistic by any stretch, but for the mid-90s, the sense of speed and scale seemed pretty impressive. Those tunnels felt claustrophobic, and those who have actually played it at the time swore that no home console game could match that feeling, and they were right. Now, here's where we run into a limitation. Those pods used PC-based hardware, and the sound effects were functional, but not spectacular. Engines roaring, your boosters firing, the crash of a collision. It all works, but it's not going to blow you away. Fortunately, part of the experience of playing Red Planet was the training video that's become legendary among fans, featuring popular actors of the time, including Weird Al Yankovic, Joan Severance, and others. These mission briefings were some straight-up 90s cheesy acting, and I have to admit, they're even now pretty fun to watch.
I could kiss you, Doc.
So I've put a link in the description below, and you can check out the whole thing later, but here's a quick preview.
Mars has been turned into a slave labor colony run by something called the Colossal Mining Corporation.
Sir, we're picking up a pirate transmission.
Good evening, Mars! And hello to all fellow enslaved workers. I'm Freeman Jack, and until the CMC police track down this transmitter, we're gonna televise tonight's race!
All right!
For anyone who only heard this playing through the pod doors while waiting their turn, it became a weirdly treasured memory. And from what I've read online, some players who experienced Red Planet, especially Martian football, became obsessed. Some have logged over 200 to 300 sessions. There are stories of a perfect match where a runner hit 3 consecutive scoring zones while their blockers neutralized every crusher. Those players describe it as a rush that no single-player game ever gave them. But all that said, even the biggest fans point out a few genuine flaws. First, the learning curve is brutal. New players get eaten alive. Second, the game is entirely dependent on having a full, communicating team. Show up alone and get stuck with a random group that doesn't talk and you'll lose, so it won't be very fun. Lastly, the physics can be a little wonky. Collisions sometimes feel unpredictable, and sometimes you'll die in ways that don't seem to make any sense visually. Even as a fan of the BattleTech universe, Red Planet was still a risk. It had nothing to do with giant robots, it was just hovercraft racing. But that simplicity was its strength. It didn't need a deep lore or complicated weapon systems. All it needed was 8 people, a course, and a reason to smash into each other at high speed. So overall, the pros outweighed the cons because of its pure, unfiltered fun. And BattleTech Centers were featured on the Discovery Channel's Beyond 2000 program back in 1992, with the presenter calling it the future of interactive entertainment. And for a while, it was. At its peak, there were 26 Virtual World locations worldwide, including Japan, Australia, and the Trocadero in London. Players competed across ISDN lines, battling opponents in different countries despite a bit of lag. It was a glimpse of the esports future before anyone had a name for it. And if you want to see more about the innovation behind those BattleTech centers and the awesome mech combat, please be sure to check out my other video about it. I've put a link in the description for that too, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So, can you still play Red Planet today? Believe it or not, yes! Original Tesla 2 pods are still out there being lovingly looked after and supported by a passionate community of fans. Want to go play them for yourself? Here's a few options, with links to each in the video description below. First, there's MechCore Entertainment, based in Houston, Texas, which operates 18 fully restored pods and regularly holds open play nights. Then, there's the Fallout Shelter Arcade in Minnesota that has another set. And there's also a dedicated group called the Virtual Geographic League Underground in Michigan, with 18 pods of their own. So if you've never played this, go do yourself a favor. Find one of those groups and book a session. Sit down in that cockpit, wrap your hands around the throttle, and feel what gaming was like before the internet became a thing. Because see, Red Planet, it was a social experience, a test of teamwork, and a reminder that sometimes the best memories happen when you're in the dark, surrounded by screens and yelling at your teammates over the roar of a booster engine. And that sounds pretty awesome to me. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.